What's cracking everyone, Titanic Llama here, and in today's video, we're going over the brand new class and the first Masterclass to be added to Idleon, the Deathbringer. As always, with these class guides, let's go over the quest to unlock it first. This is a fairly simple quest, but people who haven't unlocked every map in the game may struggle a little bit with it. To get this quest, simply talk to this fellow here on the 4th map of World 6 and accept his quest. He simply wants us to kill 92 different types of monsters, which sounds simple enough, and it is if you have every map unlocked. If not, you'll have to get a bit creative with finding those last few mobs. To get the extra kills, you can kill each of the world's bosses and mini-bosses. There are 2 mobs that some people might miss in the hole. And finally, each tier of chest that spawns at the end of a Colosseum will also count as a mob killed, and each world's Colosseum will count individually. So running World 1, 2 and 3's Colosseum will net you a lot of extra mobs. These combined should be enough to get the additional kills that you require. Once you've killed your 92 different mobs, simply head back to World 6, hand in the quest, and congratulations, you're now a Deathbringer. Next up, let's go over the Deathbringer's talents and what they do, and then we will get into the nuances of the class and how it operates. To begin with, we have Wraith Form. This talent is an activated ability that you can toggle on and off at will. When toggling this talent on, you will enter Wraith Form. Who'da thunk it? While in Wraith Form, you can collect bones from monsters, which we will get into what you do with these bones in a minute. On top of this, while you are in Wraith Form, your character will have a completely different set of stats, which can be seen using the second talent, which is the Grimoire. This is another activated ability, which upon use will open up the Grimoire interface. You can see your Wraith Form stats in the top left-hand corner of the screen while this interface is opened, and this is also where you will spend the bones that you collect from monsters to upgrade your Wraith Form stats, along with a bunch of other bonuses that affect various areas of the game. Next up, we have Sentinel Axes. This is just a straight buff to the Berserker's Axe Hurl ability, increasing the size of your axes and how many mobs that they can hit. On top of this talent also makes it so that every single basic attack will throw axes, giving the Deathbringer some of the most consistent map clearing in the game. Graveyard Shift is the 4th and final activated ability the Deathbringer gets, and this works very similar to the Siegebreaker's Flag, the Elemental Sorcerer's Portal, and the Divine Knight's Orb. Upon using this ability, you will plonk down a gravestone which will spawn a horde of monsters. When you kill all of the monsters in the horde, 2 things are going to happen. The first is it will spawn a new horde of monsters, and the second is it will increase the amount of bones dropped by monsters. I liken this to the flag, the portal, and the orb, because with each orb killed, it will increase the amount of bones dropped even further. For example, let's say that I have a count of 10 on my gravestone and my talent is giving me 1.9% more bones. This means I will have a total of 19% increase to the bones being dropped. Finally, as an added bonus, this talent also increases the base respawn rate of all normal mobs, whether you're in Wraith Form or not. Next up is Detonation. This skill simply gives the combustion skill from the Blood Berserker's talent page a % chance to trigger whenever you kill the last monster of a horde, while also increasing the range of the ability. Next up is Marauder Style. This will increase your damage and accuracy while in Wraith Form for every 100 upgrades that you have purchased within the Grimoire. Bulwark Style is exactly the same as Marauder Style, except it increases defense and HP instead. After Bulwark, we have Famine Oafish, which will increase your Wraith mode's crit chance and crit damage per power of 10 fishing efficiency that you have. I will touch back on this a little bit later in the video when I go over some of the Deathbringer's mechanics. Hang on, you thought I'd explained a fishing related talent without giving you a fish fact? Don't be silly. Did you know that there are over 30,000 species of fish on Earth, with more being discovered every year? This means that there are more species of fish than mammals, amphibians, reptiles, and birds combined. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. Anyway, Built Different is our basic strength modifier for this page of talents. Ribbon winning gives you a % chance to gain an extra ribbon each day. I won't be going over ribbons and their use in this video, but I might have a video coming out soon discussing these more in depth. Mass irrigation increases your crop evo chance while also doubling the amount of growth gained when using an Instagrow, effectively making it act as if you used 2 Instagrows on a single crop instead of 1. On top of this though, and the part I think is actually pretty awesome, it will also insta-grow all crops above and below the crop that you initially selected, which means you're getting 5 Instagrows worth of value from a single Instagrow with this talent these days. Agricultural appreciation is a straight boost to your farming experience and land rank experience gain. Dank ranks is a multiplicative increase to all of the bonuses within the land rank database, which is this here if there's any confusion over that. Wraith Overload is a multiplicative damage multi for all of your characters, which increases per power of 10 bones you've ever collected. Note that this does not affect your Deathbringer while in Wraith form. And last, but certainly not least, we have Apocalypse Wow, which is an additive increase to all golden food effects, which is a very strong bonus. This works the same as all of the other previous Apocalypse talents, requiring you to kill 1 billion of each mob. The catch here is that these have to be done on a Deathbringer, which at the end of the day really isn't that much of a restriction. You can either toggle Wraith form off, or just wait until you have monstrous amounts of damage in Wraith form. Either works. Alrighty, now that I've explained the quest and the talents, let's go over some of the details that could be missed when it comes to the Deathbringer. First and foremost, let's talk about Wraith mode. Upon activating this for the first time, you will notice that you become extremely weak. I like to think of Wraith mode as a soft prestige system, because you can only prestige once. That I know of anyway. Who knows, the last bonus in the Grimoire might be a flat bonus to everything while resetting your Grimoire levels, which honestly I wouldn't mind. But effectively, you're starting over and you're trying to build up your stats all over again via leveling up your Grimoire bonuses. I bet you never thought you'd struggle for defense and accuracy ever again, eh? But, well, here we are. I will outline how I personally progressed early on towards the end of the video, but I want to touch on a few other nuances first. The big one that everyone should be aware of is that there is currently no combat gear in the game that affects your stats while in Wraith mode. This, however, does not mean that gear is useless. As mentioned during the talent section, Famino Fish will increase your crit rate and crit damage based on your fishing efficiency. Try and say that 5 times really fast. This means, while in Wraith form, you will want to try and use as much gear as you have available to increase your fishing efficiency. Think serrated Rex rings, the fishing rings, fishing boots, maybe even the fishing waders from tab 1 of the anvil. There are some golden foods like the golden nigiri, and anything that will increase all stat are all good options to try and eke out as much efficiency as you possibly can. On top of this, you will want to use the highest tier weapon that you can craft for your Deathbringer. The reason for this is because as the tier of weapon increases, so does its attack speed. And now, with every single basic attack throwing out tons of axes everywhere, the faster we're attacking, the more axes we're hurling. The final thing to note when it comes to gear is there is currently a premium helmet in the limited time shop that will increase the amount of bones dropped. I'd suggest if you have the spare gems laying around to grab this, even if you cannot unlock your Deathbringer yet, especially if you're making your way through World 5 currently, as who knows when this hood will show up again. The final thing I want to touch on before I go over how I progressed early on is talent distribution and which talents to book out early. Now, this will be very subjective and also very dependent on how many talent points that you have available, so keep that in mind. I was personally using a level 595 Deathbringer, so I had a good amount of talent points to spread around in the beginning. I personally chose to book out Grimoire, Graveyard Shift, and Marauder Style first. Grimoire and Graveyard both will increase your bone gain, meaning that you can power up your Deathbringer faster, so these are a bit of a no-brainer. And early on, your biggest struggle will be accuracy, hence booking out Marauder Style can help here. I will also say that you should not be afraid to respec a few times early on to maximize your gains. While I'm on books, I feel like another big thing to go over is the whole should you max out Grimoire or Graveyard Shift first if you can't max them both. Through my own testing, I have noticed a couple of things. Maxing out Grimoire before Graveyard Shift for me resulted in a much more volatile bones per hour gain, meaning it will fluctuate a lot more and seems to have a much lower threshold that it will drop down to, but it will also climb back up to the peak bones per hour rather quickly. Maxing out Graveyard Shift before Grimoire, on the other hand, seems to keep your bones per hour a lot more steady overall, with very little fluctuation, but it takes a lot longer to build up to your max bones per hour initially. Throughout my early testing, when I had Grimoire leveled higher than Graveyard Shift, my bones gained was fluctuating between 1.9 million bones per hour to 2.1 million bones per hour, whereas when I had Graveyard Shift higher than Grimoire, my bones per hour gain capped out at 2.15 million bones per hour, which is slightly higher, but the more important thing I noticed was that it barely fluctuated. Even when the tombstone was reset on the map and I had to start my horde count over again, it would only drop down to about 2.1 million, resulting in a much more stable bone gain. I will also say this problem of which one to max out first will only really be an issue for maybe the first few hours of having your Deathbringer or the first day or two, depending on how actively you play Idleon. Let's go into why now. Early on, you will struggle with accuracy, defense, and damage, so I advise maxing out Wraith Form, Marauder Style, and Bulwark Style, but without putting any library books into them. You will also want to invest at least 50 points into Sentinel Axes, Detonation, and Famine O Fish. If you can max these, do it, but I wouldn't invest any books just yet unless you have a ton of talent points. This will help astronomically when it comes to clearing maps quickly and in turn farming those bones nice and efficiently. I personally maxed out Wraith Mode, Sentinel Axes, Detonation, Marauder and Bulwark Styles, and Famine O Fish without any books. Then I used a max book on both Graveyard Shift and Grimoire and maxed out Graveyard Shift and had around 200-ish points left over to dump into Grimoire. I feel like I should also note here that I do have 2 Deathbringers on my account. So the second Deathbringer has talent points in Ribbon Winning, Apocalypse Wow, and Wraith Overlord. If you only have a single Deathbringer, then I would also suggest maxing out Ribbon Winning, just don't book it out just yet until you have a ton more talent points to utilize. Now I kept this setup until I had progressed through to the Sheepies map and had more than enough damage to one-shot them. At this point, I decided to respec and book out both Marauder Style and Famine O Fish. So my talents looked like this: booked out and maxed Grimoire, Graveyard Shift, Marauder Style, and Famine O Fish. And unbooked but maxed out Sentinel Axes, Detonation, and Bulwark Style. And any leftover points were just dumped into Wraith Mode. This setup has served me rather well and had me progressing at quite a fast pace. And this is also why I say that the whole should I max out Grimoire or Graveyard first is only really an issue in the first few hours of having a Deathbringer. One final note I feel like I should say here just in case, especially if you're a much lower level, is you always want to have at least a single point in Wraith Mode, just so you can activate it. I think this goes without saying, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. Alrighty, last thing to go over is early progression. You will obviously start out on the green mushrooms as these are the easiest mob to farm and the map layout is a lot more favourable than frogs for the early stages. You will want to farm here, leveling everything in the Grimoire fairly evenly, but focusing primarily on accuracy and defense. Also, when I say level up the Grimoire evenly, I more mean keeping the cost of upgrades fairly even across the board, more so than the level of each bonus, so keep that in mind. Once you have the defense for beans, you will want to head over there to continue your grind while maintaining a fairly even spread in the Grimoire, again, always focusing on accuracy and defense when you can. You will stay on beans until you have the stats for Idleons. You can go to snakes here if you want, but these early stages go by so quickly you shouldn't really need to. This will be the first map that you spend a little bit of time on, as you will want to push for 90 accuracy here. After Idleons, you will want to head to Sandy Pots. This is the first map that you will have to keep half an eye on as you farm, because you can end up on the platform with the flies and your character can just randomly decide that they'd rather be catching flies than killing pots, so a little micromanaging might be required here. As soon as you have 225 accuracy, you will be parked on the Walking Sticks map for an hour or two, just focusing on leveling up your early Grimoire bonuses. Once you've unlocked the knockout bonus in the Grimoire, you will want to head over to Gigafrogs for a little while at least to get some initial levels into this bonus. The cost of this scales super quickly, so don't spend too much time here, maybe aim for level 4 or 5. At this point, you will want to take a little break to knock out as many mobs as you can. A knockout is when you can one-shot a monster without a weapon equipped in Wraith form. Get as many of these done as you can with the damage that you currently have, because the damage modifier that this gives is rather potent. By this time, I had unlocked all of the bonuses in the Grimoire down to FEMA hoarding. So at this point, I went back to Sticks to farm out around 1 million FEMAs, which should only take about 30-ish minutes. After I had my FEMAs, I went to Tyson's. This will be the first map you really get a good amount of ribs on, and it has a nice layout, so I stayed here until I had the stats to kill sheepies. Once you can farm out sheepies, this will allow you to push out your early accuracy and defense bonuses quite a bit more and catch them up to where you've pushed all of your rib bonuses. Just be sure to maintain your stockpile of 1 million FEMAs. Once I had the stats for snowflakes, I moved on over and leveled up Knockout to around level 10, and then I took another break to run back through Worlds 1 and 2, getting as many knockouts as I could. By this point, you should be able to fairly easily kill sheepies, and this is what I did until I had 1350 accuracy and the defense to survive on the Blokes map. While I was here, I also took the time and stockpiled 10 million FEMAs for the additional damage. At this point, you will start spending a lot more time on each map as you continue to level up your Grimoire. I've spent quite a few hours on the Blokes map pushing up all of the bonuses that cost ribs until they cost around 500k each, with the exception of Knockout, which I pushed to level 20. While I was here, I also unlocked the Elimination bonus. This works very similar to Knockout, except your goal here is to clear an entire map before anything respawns, and you can have a weapon equipped for this. At this point, I took another break and went back to do some knockouts and start my eliminations. Once you're at this point, congratulations, welcome to Sheepy Hell, as this is where you will be parked for quite some time leveling up those earlier bonuses. Remember the importance of leveling up everything as you continue to progress, because for every 100 upgrades within the Grimoire will give you a higher bonus from the Marauder and Bulwark style talents. But with that said, this is where I'm going to leave it for now. I will most likely release another Deathbringer video focusing purely on progression once we've had the class for a little bit longer and we've got a little bit more info, but the info outlined in this video should be enough to get you going, get you used to how the Deathbringer operates, and by this time you should be able to pick and choose where you need to farm without a guide. Please do share all of your farming spots down in the comments, as this is a very new class and mechanic, so I'm sure the community will find new and much more efficient ways to farm in the coming weeks. But with that being said, I've been Titanic Llama, you've been watching a video, and I'm out. Peace.